All right, this is our December tech tip. I'm using ScreenCast-o-Matic, which you can see up here. The website is actually ScreenCast-o-Matic.com, but when you get to the website, you'll hit Start Recording. And what this will allow you to do is to record every movement that you make on the screen, just as you are seeing here. So if I toggle back and forth, if I go down to the Start button, Start is hidden just a little bit. Because of the bar down at the bottom where you will make the recording. You'll actually have a record button, a pause button, the microphone, you'll be able to tell whether or not the microphone is working, and then you'll also have a time bar. All of the videos that you make on ScreenCast-o-Matic are limited to 15 minutes for the purposes of uploading those to programs, particularly YouTube. Anything longer than 15 minutes takes quite an extensive amount of time to upload, and oftentimes you actually have to ask for more storage space. So I'm going to show you how I use this with my students. I used a tool from classtools.net. It's actually called Twister, and it is a fake tweet or Twitter account. And you would be able to use this in really any subject area, and I'll give you some examples. But I wanted my students to create tweets as if they were a historical figure. The unit that we were actually studying was absolutism, and so you have absolute monarchs in the European continent, and they had to create their own usernames. They had to include the real name of the person they were assigned to. They had to create a tweet, and the tweet is where they get most of their points. This is where students had to apply their knowledge of the historical figure. And in their tweet, they have to show an understanding of that person's perspective, historical events that they were involved in, maybe even people that would have been related to them, and or someone that they may have a tiff with, or some sort of interaction with. And then finally the date, and this is so that I know that they know when this person was around. So an example for you, and like I said, when I showed this to the students, a lot of times they got very excited and they started creating things before I really gave them directions. So the username, they are much more clever than I am, but apparently usernames are supposed to be clever on your tweet. So a username, I am going to be Elizabeth the First, Elizabeth of the Tudor dynasty in England, and I'm going to write Elizabeth the First, I do what I want. Now within this, I would ask students later to explain why their username is the way that it is. So for example, Elizabeth, I do what I want. She was well known for not wanting to get married for fear that she would end up losing power, of course, much to the dismay of Parliament due to her not being able to conceive an heir. But Elizabeth, I do what I want is going to be her name, also showing her sort of streak of independence. Her real name, you do have to make sure that your students spell it correctly, otherwise things will come out a little bit amok. So Elizabeth the First, and then a tweet showing an understanding of this person's life. I'm going to just throw in real quick, I just told Philip II to get lost. And then I encourage students to put in hashtags to add other people's handles to their tweet as well. And this is all something that your students will be familiar with by using the actual Twitter accounts. So I just told Philip II to get lost. Of course, Philip II was of Spain, and he is going to originally be married to Elizabeth's half-sister, Mary of England, and they are going to try to produce a Catholic heir that will rule over both England and Spain. Unfortunately for Philip, Mary dies before giving birth to an heir, and so he pursues marriage of Elizabeth. Now Elizabeth, though, as I mentioned, did not want to get married, and I won't get too nerdy on you, but she's also Protestant. And so by being Protestant, the last thing she's going to want to do is marry a Catholic, and therefore produce a Catholic heir that would rule over both England and Spain. So I just told Philip II to get lost, and then a few of the hashtags I might write are single forever, let's see, Sorry, not sorry was one that my students suggested. Another one, Protestant power was one. And so all of those things would suggest an understanding of the relationship between Philip and Elizabeth. And then another one is going to be send yo ships. And again, not how I would talk, but these are some of the ones that my students suggested. And the idea there, send yo ships, is Elizabeth kind of almost asking for him to send the Spanish Armada in pursuit of taking over England and returning it to Catholicism. And then the date, we would say 15, and it doesn't have to be an exact date, but a roundabout. So you'll throw in the date there, and you do not necessarily have to include a date. So if it's a literary figure, you don't need to do that, but you'll hit submit. And when you hit submit, it automatically comes up with a photo for you. And so what I actually have my students do is save it as a PDF. And then in D2L, I would create a discussion board, and they end up copying and pasting the PDF into the discussion board. And then their job is to also create tweets that would respond to other students' historical characters. So for example, another student in the classroom would actually be Philip II. And so it would be very easy for that student to then click on the discussion link with this tweet, go back to the actual website. So you would go back to class tools, and that person would create one in response to this tweet. So their username would be something about Philip. Their real name would be Philip II, and okay, a tweet that would be about, of course, Elizabeth. I'm sending my ships. Look out. Of course, hopefully I would be a little bit more clever. You might change the date, you may not. Okay, we'll say Philip II, the Spanish, we'll just say Catholic. And again, okay, the kids are far more entertaining when they do this. They come up with some really clever things. So you would hit submit then, and you end up with Philip II. And just to give you an idea, okay, they would again save as a PDF. I forgot to put some hashtags in there. They really enjoy doing that. But they would save it as a PDF, and then they would actually go back into D2L, into the discussion board, and then they would post that as a response on that discussion post to Elizabeth's original. And the students really, really enjoyed doing this. All of their responses had to be obviously school appropriate. They couldn't be personal attacks, and they all had to show an understanding of the type of discussion, I guess you could call it a Twitter war, that would occur between the two. Some other ones for you. We'll go back in. There were all sorts. I actually did some of these with Enlightenment philosophers. Okay, so for example, Thomas Hobbes. Okay, I will say, let's do Enlightened Hobbes, and then we would type in Thomas Hobbes and some sort of tweet, and then a date, and you would hit submit, okay, and you end up with Thomas Hobbes and all his great beardom there. So just to give you an idea though of some other people, you can test this before you assign students to people, but good examples, maybe literary characters. Huck Finn was one, and of course you end up with Huck Finn there. Another one might be Edgar Poe. Oh, well, not Poe, sorry. Let's get that right. West, come on. All right, Edgar Allan Poe. And so the students really enjoy this. Other ones you could do, we'll do Beethoven. And they're all on here. There are lots and lots of different ones on there. Let's do, just for kicks, Salvador Dali. So they're pretty fantastic. It's a great site. The kids really enjoy it. It doesn't take them very long because they're used to this type of format. And the discussion posts end up being not only really entertaining, but also my students mentioned that they have a better understanding of how historical figures would have responded to one another had there been some sort of internet or Twitter back in that time period. So at that point, I would show students how to save as a PDF. I would close this. And then when I go back to the screen recorder, I would actually hit pause down at the bottom. It will allow you to then save it. You can save it as a file, or you can upload it to YouTube, which is what I prefer to do. I upload it to my YouTube channel, and then I post the link into D2L so students can look at it. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of both of these programs. If you have any questions, let me know, and I would be happy to work with you and your students.